We live in an age of dazzling innovation. Each week brings a new breakthrough. AI systems predicting climate futures, rockets bound for Mars, gene editing technologies reshaping the architecture of life itself. And yet, I keep asking myself, why, for all of our species' vaunted intellect, are we knowingly destroying the very planet we and all life depend upon? Perhaps the greatest paradox of our time is that the smarter we imagine ourselves to be, the more we destabilize the living environments that sustain us. We keep inventing to solve ecological problems we have invented, a vicious cycle with no end in sight. The way through this paradox begins with unlearning a story we've been telling ourselves for millennia. A story so ingrained and normalized that we barely notice it anymore. That story is human exceptionalism, the belief that humans are somehow separate from and superior to the rest of nature, smarter, more important, and somehow outside the web of life. I sometimes joke that I'm an arrogant ape, and I'm guessing most of you are too, because this story, this deep cultural myth of human exceptionalism, runs through many of us. Even if we're not consciously aware of it, it still shapes how we see the world and how we act within it. And it's backfiring. It's fueling the fires, mass extinctions, floods, and pandemics that now define our age. I used to think that innovation would save us, that some new technology, some brilliant feat of human ingenuity could fix the problem. But over time, I came to see the limits of that way of thinking. As the cultural historian Thomas Berry observed, there is a tendency to continue problem solving within the paradigm, rather than an effort to change the paradigm as the only way of dealing with the problems. The reality is that no innovation will save us until we move past the worldview that put us here in the first place. Human exceptionalism has ancient roots, from Greek philosophy to Christian theology, from Renaissance humanism to Enlightenment science. Charles Darwin upended that hierarchy with his theory of evolution by natural selection. He showed that life isn't a ladder, it's a tree, a vast branching web of relationships. There is no top, no bottom, no ranking of beings by complexity or intelligence. As a primatologist, I know this firsthand. I've spent my career observing other animals, our closest living primate relatives, chimpanzees, baboons, capuchins. They quickly dismantle any illusion of human exceptionalism. They solve problems, negotiate, invent, use tools, teach, play, empathize, grieve. In the field, you can't be an arrogant ape. You learn fast that you're on their terms, in their world, and they know many things that you do not. I've had other primates outwit me, play tricks on me, and beat me in almost any physical feat. I've watched them reconcile after conflicts, and even once reach out to console me when I was frightened. I've been groomed, ignored, tested, forgiven. They've shown me more about patience and empathy than most humans ever could. Each day, new discoveries remind us that intelligence and consciousness are woven through the living world, not just in our closest primate relatives, but everywhere. Honeybees vote democratically on new nest sites. Whales sing in dialects, unique cultural signatures passed from one generation to the next. Ravens plan for the future and even hold grudges. Elephants mourn their dead. Pigs delight in play and laughter. And trees share nutrients through underground fungal networks, keeping their communities alive. There is so much wisdom around us, so much community and communication, care and creativity. Sure, humans stand out in certain feats, but so does every species. Each has evolved to thrive in their own cognitive niche. And yet, despite everything that we've learned, human exceptionalism still drives much of our culture today. Just consider how this myth shows up in our language. We talk about natural resources and ecosystem services. We say livestock instead of animals, timber instead of trees, pork and beef instead of pigs and cows. These terms reinforce the idea that living entities matter only for their instrumental value to humans. I still remember the first time an editor crossed out who and replaced it with that every time I referred to an individual chimpanzee in one of my studies. Grammar authorities reserve who for people and that for objects. We would never think it appropriate to describe another human as it, and yet this is the norm for nearly every other species. The indigenous botanist Robin Wall Kimmerer puts it perfectly when she wrote, "The arrogance of English is that the only way to be animate, to be worthy of respect and moral concern, is to be human." Human exceptionalism also shows up systematically in our laws and politics, where only humans are considered persons with rights, while other species are things or property. And in our economics, where trees and forests gain value only when they're cut down. And in our food systems, where we kill trillions of animals each year, an industry that devastates ecosystems as readily as it does other species. And in our education, where we often teach about nature by dissecting, pinning, and uprooting it. We're imparting human exceptionalism not just to our students, but also to different AI systems, including large language models like ChatGPT, which in turn reinforces this pervasive bias in the public imagination. I've come to see human exceptionalism as the most powerful, unspoken belief of our time. And I've also come to believe that the technological and cultural transformations that we most need are those that teach us how to see ourselves as part of the living world again. There's another story waiting to be told, one in which our innovations are guided by humility and not hubris. We could start with something as simple and yet profound as the language we use. What if we stopped talking about natural resources and started talking about our lifelines, our neighbors, our relatives? What if we switched from impersonal to personal pronouns for other species? Even small linguistic shifts can be a profound act of recognition. What if our schools taught ecological literacy as rigorously as reading or math, so that children grew up fluent in the animals, plants, and other beings they live around? What if our economic frameworks measured well-being in terms of the whole community of life and not quarterly returns? What if AI weren't trained only on human knowledge, but also on the intelligence of other beings and the patterns of sustainable living they offer? What might it look like for our own lives to involve rituals that honor the larger web of life? For instance, what if our holidays celebrated not just human achievements, but the turning of the seasons, the solstices, the migrations, the rhythms of life that make our own possible? And what if our laws and political parties recognized the intrinsic rights of other beings and gave them a meaningful voice in decisions that affect their lives? These questions are not new. They are ancient and central to indigenous, animist, pagan, many other cultures, past and present. But they are perhaps more urgent today than ever. These questions also show that this paradigm shift is both systemic and deeply personal. The way that we speak, learn, eat, celebrate, and relate to other forms of life daily matters just as much as the economies we run, the technologies we design, and the laws we pass. So here's my challenge to you. Consider how to integrate this humbler story in some small way into your own life and work. And importantly, before you celebrate or develop the next big breakthrough in your field, ask yourself, what worldview, what relationship with the rest of nature is it reinforcing? Is it challenging human exceptionalism or fueling it further? Let's not let our innovations dazzle us so completely that they blind us to the deeper roots of the crises we face. A future beyond human exceptionalism is worth imagining, and it is still within our reach. Thank you.